So today is the day, and I'm a little bit nervous, but I want to share things from my heart. I want to share my testimony of how Jesus saved me, and I'm just going to essentially think about the times that I have been watching testimonies like this, and I know that they were a big source of inspiration for me and a validation for me. And because of that, I feel like I want to share. Today is September 1st. Um, the day of our baptism happened on May 18th. And for some reason, I was just planning on doing it on September 18th. But somehow I woke up and I said, today is going to be the day. I've been sharing a lot of things on my social media, and it's kind of like not fair if I don't give you the chance to kind of like spend some time and get to see how things were and what Jesus saved me from. So here we go. I actually grew up in the Catholic Church. I grew up in Puerto Rico, in a small town. It's called Guayama, Puerto Rico. Okay. And since kindergarten, my family invested in me having an education and a private education going to Catholic school. When I got married for first time, which happened to end in a divorce, but happily I have a daughter, product of that. But I got married first time when I was 19, and I didn't get married under the Catholic Church. It was under the Methodist Church. The reason why I mention this is because when I met Tom, which is my current husband and the love of my life and the father of our kids, and we have a beautiful marriage, and I'll get to talk to you about that. 18 years together. When I met Tom, and we decided to move forward with getting married, I realized that I was going to be able to marry him under the Catholic Church, which happened to be kind of like a big deal, especially like him coming from a Catholic family and all that. So for us, that was important. We always felt that religion was a value. Okay. So as life goes on, when Tom and I met, I actually was a very successful attorney. I had my law practice, and he was essentially in Puerto Rico for business, doing and working with his family on a business that they had. The business didn't work out. He ended staying in the island, and then very quickly, that was around the time when the mortgage crisis started, which in Puerto Rico, we also start feeling issues with construction loans, which was the industry that I was working at. So we were having all of these indicators that it was going to be basically a time when my law firm was going to face a financial crisis. I will never forget this day. We had a conversation. My accountant and I had a conversation about the need to really, take more precautions because the construction projects were going to come into a halt. So because of that, then I decided that I was going to basically remove myself from the payroll of the office, and we were going to be moving out. So again, I'm just going through all of these so I can put you in a position to see how many years I have been basically working and in the struggle, okay? Especially in our marriage. So this is like 2007, 2008, okay? So that comes in, we moved. 2008 comes, I get pregnant, we have Brayden, and then we bought our first home together. And it was like very, very exciting. But quite quickly, the financial hardship really started. And we just were struggling a lot because, in fact, the mortgage crisis hit. I was doing construction law. And, Tom was just pretty much in the beginning of his career. And I remember that around that time, I started working, representing a company, and they were basically under the direct sales model. And when you are in that particular business, they use a lot of personal development tools. So from that, I actually was acquainted with all of these things. You know, you set up the goals. I remember that Team Ferris was a big deal. And then we learned a lot of things that sounded really, really, really good. Okay. So as I'm progressing into this whole new world, I get more intrigued into that, and then it all started from personal growth, personal growth, personal development, and I'm like, yes, this resonates with me because I was just like under that really like financial hardship, and I needed to reinvent myself, and I found in those voices a lot of comfort in the sense of it is definitely okay to take full responsibility of your mistakes. I found that it truly helped me to realize that it was up to me to become a better person, a better leader. And now that I'm going back to recreate that story, even for this testimonial, I can actually see things from another lens. Okay. So instead of truly realizing, hey, you know, you're going through a hardship, things are difficult, this is the Bible, this is what the Bible says about how can you come to Jesus and really surrender all your issues, and he's going to be, you know, your protector. I didn't do any of that. I didn't have any mentor. And again, I want to remind you, for us, religion was just part of something that we had as a tradition. We would go to church on the holidays. We would honor the particular holidays from the church as a tradition. I remember seeing like the stress around celebrating Christmas, celebrating with the family. All of that was a good thing to have, but there was no such a thing as a mention of religion or relationship. Okay, so this is happening. We're living in Connecticut at that time, so I got really captivated by the world of personal growth and personal responsibility. So I started with Tim Ferriss, and then Eckhart Tolle was a big deal, and I remember reading books about it, reading books about purpose, and reading books about all of these kind of things of leadership. Okay, then my opportunity to develop an online business, you know, really happened. I was able to essentially like lose weight and then have a voice in the company that I was a direct representative for. So instead of me just doing basically direct sales, I had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills. So throughout that, I then became like a leader and a spoken person. And that's when I saw the need for investing in getting coach. Okay. So as I'm getting the coaching, I'm going through all of the things that I need to learn. And I was really thinking that I needed to, if I wanted to get better, it was all up to me. Correction there, right? Like instead of getting somebody to tell me, hey, listen, there's a Holy Spirit that can help you. And all you need to do is just to pray and being obedient and all that. It was really not the case. In fact, I look back to the philosophy that my coach had. And, you know, if you're listening to this video, I will be forever grateful for all the lessons that we lived together. If I was having the chance to coach somebody now, definitely my values are different. Hence the reason why I think it's very important that you need to align with the values of people who are going to, in fact, be your counselors and be your mentors. That's even in the Bible. So I didn't know any of that. So I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for coaching. I invested in coaching. And then, so I feel like that was like step two, right? As I'm not only listening to all the personal growth around, like it's all, you know, it's you're 1,000% responsible. This is all about you. You need to get better. You need to, you know, invest. All of those tools actually come with a ticket. Okay. So, yes, they give you the formula for success, but in the end of the day, there's going to be a ticket that you have to pay because you want to be part of that world. You want to be part of that network. So, I did all that. Okay. I invested in every single thing that you can imagine to become a better leader. So, as I kind of like got closer to those who were very, very, very successful, what I found was that there was a lot of hypocrisy. I didn't actually find leaders that were living in transparency. Like I saw a lot of drugs. I saw a lot of infidelity, marriages, not being true, and happy marriages as things, looked like in the outside. And it's one of those things that they say, don't get close to your superheroes because you're going to get disappointed. Well, that was the case. Now, we're actually arriving to when I got acquainted with this whole world of magic. Okay. So it was around that time when I am involved in all kinds of like leadership circles. We all wanted to see like $50,000 per month, $100,000 per month. And guys, I saw at some point a couple of times when I really had in my business close to $100,000 per month. And then I realized that these people were actually like doing things that were related to magic, and I'm like, so what's that? And then it's like, oh, so we follow these angel cards, and then we actually are being gonna be doing this ritual. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So because these people are like super successful, they're doing these things. I'm kind of like getting to be influenced into doing all those things. One thing I need to say about me is that, and I'm actually praying about it. I do have addictive patterns, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. And what that means is whenever I want to learn something, I just go all in. Okay. And when you combine addictive patterns with somebody that is naturally very passionate, then you're going to have the phenomenon of ignorance on fire. So that's how I was. When it comes to like all these things of New Age, I was like ignorant on fire. Now I'm much older, much mature, and I'm still super passionate about all of those things, right? So, I do things with passion. That's what I'm trying to say. So, anyway, I get to be, knowing about like the angels and all this kind of things. And of course, part of my trait is if I'm going to be learning something, I want to learn like, how do you learn this? And, how you guys do it and all this kind of things. I remember basically from there I was just kind of like exposed, but it was just a little bit exposed to how people would do things. And I remember actually listening, and this is basically to give you some context on the time. This is around 2011, 2012. Okay. So Oprah was super popular, right? Like we want to listen to Oprah, we want to listen to Tony Robbins. Those were my tapes. Those were the things that I would hear, so I could feel that I could take ownership on my failures, right? Like I'm just going through this financial crisis and I needed to just take ownership. And then I also needed to do like affirmations, okay? The closest to the Christianity playbook was Joel Austin. So from time to time, if I wanted to feel more spiritual and I wanted to hear about Jesus, I would just tune in into, the channel from Joel Austin. So, there you got it, right? So that was like super soft. I really loved it. And I would say I was one of these individuals that, again, if you would ask me if I would go to a hospital, for example, and then, they ask you, like, what religion are you? I would just mark the box Catholic. Okay. So I was one of those Catholics, again, had all the sacraments, all of the things, checking the boxes, and putting my kids through checking the boxes as well. Now, so that again, through that particular chapter, I was basically introduced to all of these things. Now, and next level comes in. Um, as my business became very successful, but my marriage was not successful. Like, it was very, very, very stressful. And also, like, I came into the realization that like, a lot of the leaders that I was like working with were people that I could not rely. So it was just like very icky. And I'm super grateful. And I remember, like, from my process of being born again, I remember going back to that time when I just had to repent, and I felt like I needed to ask for forgiveness to God, because I just felt that there was so many opportunities for me to turn my life into him, but I didn't. And instead, I would just listen to other voices, right? So other schools of thinking. So around that time, again, the angels were very popular. I started like navigating in this, whole thing about calling angels to my house. We did a ritual. I would listen to Joel Osteen. I would just listen to a lot of things. Okay. Then I sign up for a coaching program because, again, I keep investing. I keep thinking that everything is up to me. And especially during that program, I needed to sign up because I wanted to basically jump off what I was doing and working with this company under a label. And I just wanted to create my own. I wanted to create my own brand. So I signed up on this program. And the way that the program basically was promoted was, you get access to these mastermind groups, you get access to a retreat, and all that is part of what they give you. It's a highly spiritual community, and it was perfect because for me, being spiritual was being aware that there were things in the unseen world. There were things that we recognize that are like forces that will help you or will damage you. And I want to take you back to times when what I used to say, clairvoyance gift, would actually like give me a particular validation. Okay. So the first incident when I remember seeing something, I was 7 years old. I told my grandma, I said, "You're not my grandma." And I know it. You're not my grandma. And I remember like she was like in tears. And then that weekend, my mom actually said, "Hey, I want to talk to you because you said this to, your grandma, and she feels like somebody told you the truth, and I just need to tell the truth." So as I'm just, there, like it again, I'm 7 years old. Okay. So, so it turns out that the vision that I had that she was not my real grandma, it was true. Like, she was not my real grandma. I didn't really put too much into like thought into this, but that created the awareness that basically that there was an opportunity to hear a voice and to act on a voice. Okay. Another example, I remember, actually, I think there is a very old blog that I have, in a very, very old blog that I have, where I wrote this article that says, when you feel a click. I identified that as a click. It's like sometimes you just hear something and then you act on it, and then you're able to trust in that whatever voice you hear, it's actually truth. So another example, I remember like I could go to a restaurant, for example, and then I was at a bar, and then I look at somebody and I would say, "I think your name is Steve," and they were like, "Yeah, that's my name." so so those were like casual encounters with these voices, but they were not the only ones. The voices became more serious, and I was able to then tap into that for other things like solving issues, working as a family law attorney, working in custody, complex things. And I would just sometimes would close my eyes and look and see the things. For there was a particular case where the father actually like invited the son for a summer trip, and then they never returned back. He never returned the key to Puerto Rico. So I remember like working on that case, and I'm like, okay, so the house is this, and that. I need to just go and hop on a plane. I know that he has the kid in his house, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And the more times I attempted to chase or to follow those voices, and I was assertive, the more I would say the more I got to be convinced that I was gifted. Okay, so by now, by the time when I went to this retreat, I'm aware that I have a particular gift. Okay, there was another time when there was an incident in our family, and I was also able to just kind of like have this vivid download and act on it and being right about it. So I remember being at this retreat, and then we are at this table having lunch, and I felt the same thing. I felt like something about a person, and I said, I think I'm supposed to meet you. Okay, so I said that to this person, and then she looked at me, and then she said, maybe because you're one of us. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like cool. So she gave me the card, and it ended up being an energy healer. I was not even aware of that word. So I'm like, oh, so what does this mean? And then this is actually a community where we're all learning how to become a brand and all that, those kind of things. In that particular community, there were people with spiritual gifts. It was not a spiritual community at all. It was just a community where you would go to learn business. But going back and then looking back, the founder, the main coach, she definitely believes in spirituality, and then her testimonies were pretty much a confirmation on that you are able to manifest. You're able to, create the life that you want. And look, so when you listen to those voices and they show you, hey, this is the life I have, and this is how I have created my life, and you are thirsty for success, you are under a financial hardship, and then, guys, I will just do whatever it takes to be there. And that means I will not pay the mortgage. I will get more in debt. And this is where things start to be a slippery slope, because under that particular philosophy, there's a lot of laws from the universe, and especially in the topic of abundance, you are trained that you need to kind of like let the cash to flow. And that is okay if, because you're going to activate cash, it's okay if your activation of cash also means that you're not going to pay for your debt. It's completely normal to hear people to say, hey, I didn't have this money, but I did it anyway, right? So you would hear stories of people that they would just do whatever it takes to be at a particular place. They would do whatever it takes to invest the money that they didn't have. Okay, now looking back, you see this, the kingdom of the Lord doesn't really say that, right? Like, you're not supposed to not being, financially responsible. You're not supposed to be in debt with your neighbor to do things. But this particular philosophy is quite the opposite. I would say that it is very financially reckless, okay, to advise somebody that it's okay that if you, don't have the money, it's okay, because you have to actually use the money that you have, empty your banking account, even if that means that you're not going to have the money, because what you need to do is an act of faith. You see, they use faith. It's an act of faith of you putting the money into the circulation of the universe. And guys, it worked. It works. Like, that's it. That's the main issue with the whole new age philosophy, is that it works. Okay, so you have this combination of me then getting to see that I already had this gift, but then now I'm learning the techniques to manifest money. I mean, hey, you are basically, you don't need anything. You have found that this is heaven. You have found that you have all the superpowers, all the super abilities, all the super gifts. So now it's coming back to the business card that I received. Okay. So I went to this retreat and everything is just super fine and dandy. You're learning all these things. And then, as part of what you need to learn, you also learn spirituality. You need to believe in yourself. You need to, be acquainted with what it takes to manifest. That was actually one of the very beginning of me getting my hands into the work from Wallace Wattles. If you're not familiar with Wallace, he actually is from 1902, and it's from the family of Think and Grow Rich. That's Napoleon Hill. So now I'm a very good student. So now I'm like, oh, wow. People from the 1900s, they knew how it is to manifest money. They knew how it is to become a billionaire. It turns out that even the fathers who did our constitution, they were not Christians. They were from the New Thought. So now you realize, wow, these particular foundation of how to manifest success is completely unbiblical. But yet we made it very popular. And make no mistake, again, it works. So I'm getting acquainted with Napoleon Hill, with the law of attraction, with, the Wallace, which is like you can manifest everything. And then, you learn all these things, right? The law of success. So I remember that because I wanted to build my brand, I wanted to also create content online. If you search, you're going to find that I did this series of the law of attraction. And I started studying all of the universal laws. I was like, oh, wow. So this is the thing, right? So I've been lied this entire time. I got to believe that church is just there because they want to control you. And there's this conspiracy that church didn't want you to learn all of these other things. But there's this other group, right? This other group where things are white magic. You are definitely going to make a pledge that you're not going to use any of these to actually harm anybody. And this actually takes us to tell you on one experience that I had when I was a family law attorney, where I actually needed to study the religion of satanic. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but we are in a free country. And we had the rights to belong to any religion that we want, and nobody can take that away from us. And that means that if you have a child and if you are satanic, your baby daddy or your baby mom cannot come and attack you and accuse you and say that because you are in a member of a particular religion, you're not entitled to have your kid. So that was the case. I was working with this case and I was able to read about the Satanic Bible and all these kind of things. I consider that I was like very educated on the fact that there's a lot of religions, that there's a lot of like practices. I was very inclusive. I remember hearing this from an interview to Oprah where she was explaining that you have to be inclusive to be spiritual, because if you were born in India, for example, you would not have access to Christianity. Or if you were born, in another country, you would have just a different belief system. And that's what I believed, right? So anyway, this is getting us back to the energy work. And because I had that contrast of working with the negative and working with demonic entities, which I felt very vividly when I was working on that case, and that's actually another click moment I had. when I took my client to the court, everything was perfect. I had interviewed the kid. We had everything to win, everything to win. This was supposed to be a favor that I was doing, and it was supposed to be a very simple hearing. And my client, when it was our turn, my client actually could not speak. Her throat got completely sealed, and I remember feeling like, what is happening here? What's going on? So I asked for a break, and then I went to the bathroom with her, and I was like, can you just tell me, like, I'm feeling something here. I'm feeling like there is definitely a force that I don't know what it is. And she started crying. And she was like, I should have told you this. I should have told you that he's actually like satanic. And then I'm like, wait, him? Or you both were, and then this is something that you did with him. So the long story short is that because of that particular experience, I was just very meticulous on. I don't want to practice anything where I could just kind of like access that kind of energy. Also, being born and raised in Puerto Rico, you are also aware of, like, I'm also aware of like going to a medium. I remember my mom would take me and she would just go to get, readings from a medium. I remember that I went a couple of times when I was a teenager. And then the medium was basically like smoking cigar. And then the place was just like very weird in the back of a house. And then people were in lines, guys. Like, this was something that a lot of people will not tell you. But even when they were Catholics and they were part of a religion, they would just do these things because, my grandma would say, you have to help yourself. You have to help yourself. So I would see candles being lit because you need to help yourself, right? So as I'm aware already of these other practices, which, being from the island, you're also aware that there's a lot of voodoo, there's a lot of black magic, there's a lot of spiritism, there's a lot of santeria, right? So I had exposure to knowing what was that. In addition to working for this case, which I needed to learn all the different practices. And in my argument with this case, I was like, okay, kind of like people who can dabble into these things, but this guy actively practices in a cult. He was wearing like these costumes, they had spades, they were doing these games, and then the whole paraphernalia that that I saw that they had was just like nothing else. So anyway, I'm acquainted with what it's like to dabble into all of those, brujeria, magic, all these kind of things. So, however, this particular school of energy healing was white magic, was all about the good things. You can never use this for anything negative. And it sounded like, wow, this is amazing, right? So anyway, as I am, going in life, by now we are in 2016, 2017. Okay. So remember, like when I moved from Puerto Rico to Connecticut, this is 2007 to 2008. I'm still not knowing anything about Jesus. I'm still not knowing anything about, how can I actually turn my life into him, anything like that. I'm just really following the worldly advice. So then I started to deal with issues with Danny, which is my oldest daughter. And I was like, I feel like there is some sort of like a negative entity here. And then I remember that I had the card of the energy healers. And then I decided that I was just going to, Brayden, can you let me do this by myself? My son is here. I'm like, can you give me some privacy? So, I know, I know. So Brayden is gonna be a super important piece of my story. You will see why. So as Danny's starting to have issues, so by now, actually, right now, this is like 2025. My oldest is 25. Brayden is gonna be 17. Bella is going to be 15, and Prissy will be 12. Okay, and I have my baby Lydia. Again, I'm trying to tell you the story the best the best way I can, where I don't miss the details, but also it can be a very long story, right? So as Danny's having issues, I sincerely felt that she had a lot of bad energies. I would by then consider that I already knew how to identify a good spirit from a bad spirit. I was not training any of that officially, but by knowing the things that were happening in her life, she was like with a lot of like depression. She was just in darkness, in a lot of darkness. Once again, instead of turning my life to Christ, right? So what do? I remember that I had this card, and then I reached out to this mentor who was basically like a spiritual and energy healer. And that's how I actually like took things to another level. I learned that I could actually like, learn how to do some techniques using the energy work. It was kind of like interesting to say the least, because when I reached out, she said, I need to get back to you to see if my guides are going to say yes to us working together. Later, many years later, she then explained to me that she was planning a trip to come here, but then she wasn't sure. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, I took it as this is just super powerful, somebody that needs guidance from the guides. And then when she said that the guides said yes, that for me made me feel like I was just kind of like chosen. I'm like, I'm so special, she's gonna be working with me. And then in that particular group, I have to say this, they mostly live in the gift economy. I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars to learn how to do miracles. I didn't have to pay. In fact, I didn't have to pay a lot of things. We had a very great relationship where we respected our value. Again, like I feel like we truly believed that we were doing good. Okay, this was a school of thinking where you are not supposed to use any of these tools for to harm anybody. Okay, so that's actually when I took things a little bit more serious, because I wanted to help my daughter. So as I want to help my daughter, I'm actually like really learning how to do energy work. This is how I learn more in specific things, like how to cut cords, how to unblock, how to, do all kinds of, things to develop new habits, and nothing about Jesus. There's no mention of the Holy Spirit, nothing at all. Okay, there is no mention of any particular biblical reference or any of that. In fact, the mentors, they were at some point part of the Mormon church, but then they exit, and then they're pretty much following a very inclusive spirituality practice, where there is no such a thing as a need to have a label. So things would actually like turn from me kind of like consulting the oracle from time to time to, oh, now I'm going to be certifying myself. Now I can do this on people. I have to say, I never practiced anything like that into like people and got paid for it. It was something that I would do with my friends. And it was something that it kind of like was cool, was really, really cool to do. Now, by then, um, I really, if I tell you, like, if I go back and tell you, if things got better and it got significantly better, I'll be lying. I would say that I'm still believing that it's up to me. I'm still believing that I need to manifest. And if I'm not generating the results, that means that I'm not manifesting enough, that I'm not actually doing enough. So, as a good student, I keep learning about other things. Then I learned that I could do some sort of like light language and codes using gems. I also learned how to do what is called like the limpia or the clearing, because by then I'm like, maybe it's my soul. Actually, maybe it's my soul. So we did some work in my soul. And I was able to kind of like travel in different dimensions and rescue pieces of my soul, because that might be it. That might be the reason why your heart and your soul is blocked, right? So it didn't happen. It didn't actually, it would be like a never ending story. There was something always that my soul was missing, or because I exposed myself to a place, or because I exposed myself to a thought, or to be in a relationship with somebody, or being around somebody. Like, I would just be influenced by all of these spirits. Mind you that there's never the mention of the demons. There's like, they don't call it in that way. They use the words entities, they use the words light, they use the words of shapes, but you never hear the word Satan whatsoever. And I wish they would be more more real, and truthful, because that's what it is, right? Like, when you're actually like going through different dimensions, you're going to be bypassing authority, and you're going to be seeing demons. So anyway, as I'm just taking that as part of my life, I took a couple of courses, but you're supposed to practice. You're supposed to develop this practice. I'm going to fast forward everything through 2024, because again, we can be here for many, many years. On my testimony. But I'm going to be now going fast forwarding to 2024. In 2024, I was actually really dealing with another financial hardship. My business was transforming. I had left a very toxic partnership, and that didn't work out, and it was just really, really, really hard for me. In addition to that, Tom got fired. So now I'm really, really, really believing that I need to take my manifesting skills and take them to the next level. Around that time, I was already into practicing yoga. Yoga actually was a really good philosophy for me, particularly because I was suffering a lot from anxiety. And throughout yoga, I was able to feel that my brain was able to release a lot of stress. And because of that, I will feel really, really, really good. None of this has to do anything with any prayers or anything about Jesus or any of that. Now, my kids, they were teenagers, Brayden and Bella, and they were going to a church. A friend of them, and I think the principal of their school was a pastor at this particular church. And around this time, I'm just taking church as a chore. So kids want us to go, let's just go, because it's just kind of part of a chore, right? So sometimes I would say, guys, I'm not going to go because I'm just going to do laundry at church. So I would just stay home and then put Joel Austin and then fold laundry. And for me, that was church. I will see it as I'm serving my family, and then that was my definition of church. Okay. Oh my gosh. That was my definition of church. And I'm bringing here more cards, more decks, especially like in the yoga community. You have access to the sage, and you have access to this, and you have access to that. And I kept just buying every single thing that I could. I would also do a lot of rituals on the new moon and full moon. And then we had this app where I could see all the retrogrades and my patterns. And then I had this community of all of us going through ascension. And then, and everything was very assertive. Like, again, it was so good. It was so good. Like, I'm going to have a hard time to tell you that, make no mistake. Even the day when I had my experience, I remember going to the pattern app and said, you're going through a spiritual transformation. That was on my birth chart. Okay. That I was going to go through a spiritual transformation exactly on May 29th, 2025. Like, it was on my birth chart of the astrology birth chart. So I had consolidated my astrology information with, okay, so there's the universe, then there is the planets, and then there's this force that is God, and then God is the master of everything. And then if I get to learn how to access frequencies. Then I can basically teleport using my abilities to travel through dimensions, and I can just be the most powerful human on this planet, right? So as things became more, I said harder, right, for us financially, I'm just really peddling all these things that are related into the School of Manifesting. I also had taken a human design test, and then the results came that my particular, like, the results are like, I'm a manifester, my type. So my design is a pure manifester. So then, imagine this, right? I'm telling you that by age 7, I was able to see things. I told you that I had a couple of encounters with spirits that had told me things. So I'm living my identity as a manifester. By then I said, okay, I have to go back to see my master because I need new powers now. This is going to be an unsurmountable season in my life, and I need more powers. So basically, I spent a week in the school, and then I was able to access more powers. By then, I was also basically taking these courses that were free courses to be a better psychic. I really wanted to be a better psychic. I was practicing, like, if I close my eyes and I see an object, then where the object is. And you become really, really, really good with that. Really, really good. And I had no intentions to change whatsoever. In fact, I did invest in my sound healing bowls. I invested in getting certified in Reiki. That was actually a couple of years before. And that Reiki master she gave me a good deal of $3,000. And I found that she charged my friend $5,000 for a basic 1-on-2 Reiki certification. That's kind of like how this world is. It can be a wild, wild west. And I'm lucky that I didn't invest too much, but I did invest a lot of time. I did invest a lot of time in getting to learn what was my gift and how could I develop my gift. So I came back from this retreat. I did my, singing bowls, all these kind of things. And my daughter, Isabella, was praying for me. She was actually like very reactive when I came home. She was like, "No, mom, I don't want any of that. I don't want to be touched with that. I don't want to be in the house when those things are being played." And I said, "Bella, come on. You're very exaggerated. Like, you cannot be legalistic. That's just very wrong. Like, who is your pastor? I want to be talking to them because this is a lot, okay?" So I really was mad. I was very mad because she was calling me out. And I'm like, you cannot be like this. That's not true. These things were, frequencies are created by God. And then how dare you? Are you just saying? And she would just throw me the Bible and then send me a lot of videos. And when she would send me those videos, I would not play them. I would be very reluctant to play anything that would say from witchcraft to this. I'm like, I'm not doing witchcraft. I'm not doing any witchcraft. I'm not doing any harm to people. Okay, so stop it. That was our argument all the time. But she didn't let go. She didn't let go. So anyway, as I'm doing this thing, and I'm trying to grow my business, all these kind of things. Another another I would say episode happened, and then in this particular episode, I'm hurt, like my body hurts, and there's something that happens the in the particular, like, energy healing world, is that your body will be the indicator of any particular energy that is stuck or any trauma that is stored in your body. Like, your body is supposed to be like basically the best way to do a reading on what emotions are stored in you, or what stories you are holding, or what is canceling your blessing. So that's what I believed, right? So as I'm doing this particular training, I remember that for lunch I just got like my throat got like blocked. And I had to exit the training during lunch. My students didn't notice, but Tom was with me, and I told him that I got choked, and I was just dealing with that. So that Friday, I managed to deal with my throat, but I'm thinking that I have a blockage. Then again, right? I need to clear my chakras. I need to do something because, you need help. You need to help yourself, right? So I'm like, okay, so I need to do another clearing. I need to do another work. And that Friday, Tom was actually doing a race, one of those crazy races that he does, where it's like a multiple nights, something crazy like that. So that Friday he was not home. I was then having the night for me, and I would just do my thing. I did a light. I remember that I slept with frequencies put on my TV. I did believe that I needed like to put all the angels, and then I light the candle, all those kind of things. And I'm thinking that I'm really, really in need to heal my throat chakra. So I used ChatGPT, and then this got mixed up with learning somatic healing. I also had learned that if you want to go to your ancestors, you can do some vowels, and then you do some noises. So I had gotten this recipe of doing like, hey, hey, hey. So my night went, I fell asleep with all my healing, all my protocols, all these kind of things, right? I'm trying to find what is the truth about why I got choked. So Saturday, I had to work. So I went downtown. I needed to drive. And that Saturday, I actually said, okay, Jesus, you're going to come with me on the car. So I said that. I put worship music and I started driving. And I remember the music was, God, I keep counting my blessings. And da na 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 ta na na. And then I'm like, I'm gonna be saying the hey. So as I said, hey, hey, something happened, and then like I took off in terms of like I started like screaming, and then something like inside of me wanted to come out. I didn't know what that was. And truth to be told, like at that point, I'm not really aware of any of this, like the deliverance ministry, any of that. I'm thinking, wow, I'm getting this, chakra clear. Like that was like big. It lasted a lot. And I actually recorded a video because I wanted to share with my spiritual friend, my spiritual master. We both were, Reiki healers, and we just, we'll talk every single day. So I just, wanted to record it so I could just share. And then, sometimes it was very common for us to be sharing footage of like, hey, what can you see? What can you see in the realm? So I just wanted to record. So I recorded, and then I shared this video. When I shared this video, I actually like that episode. I felt like I needed to throw up. I felt like basically a demon is coming out of my body. Okay. I didn't know that that was a thing. I didn't know how deliverance looked like. Remember, I grew up in a Catholic church. I didn't grow up seeing any sort of like demonic, exorcisms or anything like that. So when I posted that video, I actually have a friend of mine who has become an amazing, spiritual mentor for me. And she said, I just don't think that that's actually like a chakra thing. I think you just got this deliverance, and I think you should share it. And you should just praise the Lord for this. So I did that. I actually, like, if you go back to my Instagram, you're going to see that the video was posted twice. And the first time it says, this is what somatic healing does. And then the second time, I gave him praise. I said, this is what happens when, you ask Jesus to come and heal you. Now, I'm kind of saving the best for the last, because one thing that happened on my journey is that I was also doing a lot of meditation, and I was doing a lot of transcendental meditation. I had been in touch with the work from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And to me, in addition to the fact that I had a psychedelic experience and I really, really, really liked to get my mind out of the world, I felt like the meditations were so good, because they would take me there. They would take me to when I did my psychedelic trip. And actually, at some point, I want to share with you the notes from my trip, because it's it's kind of creepy to see that when I did that psychedelic meditation, that psychedelic experience for my anxiety, I can tell you that I saw entity. Actually, I see my notes here. It says, I felt the presence of one type of entity. It was like entities. And I have like here, I put here like I was teleporting. I saw port number one where I could go into my past, and then another port took me to see another universe, then the entities, then I found meaning of life. Like I have a lot of notes from my psychedelic experience. So meditation for me, especially like the long meditations where you could have an out of body experience, were something that I just was doing a lot. I was doing a lot. And during one of those meditations, around the summertime, like it was like 6 months before my deliverance experience, I found myself into a place where there were a lot of entities. There was like the good and the bad. And there was Jesus. And then he said, now you saw me, tell them that I'm real. Like I saw basically what probably it is, the council of the gods, and then you have the good and the bads, and then Jesus was there. Jesus was there, and he said, "Tell them that I'm real." I didn't do it. I didn't say anything to anybody, but I remember like I had seen that. So when I had the moment of deliverance, I was like, hmm. He has been with me. He's been really pursuing me. That in addition to my daughter being on top of on my case for doing all these kind of things like sound healing. So as I am realizing what happened when I went on the car ride, I'm like, oh, wow. Like this idea of having demons, like who wants that, right? Like then let me tell you, everything that I had thought about energy healing, all of a sudden I was just like disgusted. I'm like, I don't want that. I feel like I'm super possessed. I feel like, and actually let me clarify that, because I feel like demon possessed is not the same as demon attack. But I definitely felt that there was a lot of heaviness. There was a lot of torment happening. Um, I then started to learn, like, how does it look like? I'm searching, like, if you are under, like possessed, like, how does it look like when you have, demonic entities around you? And I was checking all the boxes, guys, all the boxes. Like nobody takes proud on saying publicly, hey, I had a lot of demons inside me. But I did have, a lot of demons. And I had to fight a lot. I had to fight a lot, between the entities and between all this torment and the thoughts, intrusive thoughts. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts. I realized that the psychic voices, they were not like voices from from God. There were no voices from God, but I would hear them. It was like very, very clear. Another thing that I realized too is that when I learned how to find my guides, there was the particular class where that I took, and actually like my guides were a lot of my ancestors. So that's actually necromancy. Like you're not supposed to have any relationship with the unrested souls. Like that's not good. So because of that experience, I would just hear my grandma's voice all the time, all the time, all the time. And in fact, it became a thing. It became a thing that I would just talk to her, talk to my other grandma, talk to my ancestors, and because they were my guides. So look at that, right? Like I'm really, really with a lot of bondage, which it was a term that I didn't know. I had bondage with my guides, and that bondage, I would just praise them a lot and give them a lot of time from my days. Like I remember going and I would be like, okay, so what do you want? Tell me. And then they would guide me. They would guide me. It's actually very, very sad for me to tell you this because like there were so many years, right? So many years of me living like that, living like I could have a conversation with. It's like, when you were a little kid and you have your imaginary friend. The only problem is that these imaginary friends are just our demons. Okay, our demons. They're all, like, don't tell me that you're talking with your grandma. Like, the Bible is very, very clear on that. Okay, that's actually an unrested soul. If you're talking with your grandparents and then they're not here, like, run away, run away. That's not supposed to happen. Okay, the movie Ghost was a movie, okay, that was made by Hollywood. That's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to go to a medium. You're not supposed to have any sort of encounter with your past lives. You're not supposed to have any access through somebody that is telling you that because you had this past life in another life, then now you have a particular character trait. You're not supposed to, okay? That is not truth. But here I was following that world, a world that starts with you burning candles for angels and calling the angels to do good for you. Now we understand, like, well, like, let's just actually, call things with the names, the real names. Yes, there are angels, but yes, there are demons. There are demons. So as I became acquainted with the name of what happened to me, which was like I was under, a demonic attack. I'm like, I don't want any of this. I don't want any of this, any of this. So my hair lady actually, she was also super, super instrumental in my story, in this journey. She was like, you should just learn about this, and then she would just give me YouTube videos. Very great representation of how to be a Christian and lead somebody that, like me, I'm so stubborn. I'm so happy that she was very soft, and then she was just basically open to answer my questions. She never like imposed anything. And I feel like I want to honor and be like that. I don't want to impose anything. Like, my journey is my journey, and your journey is going to be your journey. On the same note, I know that there is a power in hearing stories, because when I was basically aware that there was a chance that I was possessed and I was having a lot of demons in my house, in my business, in my family, I'm like, I don't want this. How can I just, end this? I don't want any access to any of this. So, like, when I was trying to find this information, I found videos just like this video. It was like my testimony, right? Like testimonial videos of people that were like, yeah, I mean, again, I want to be very, very mindful and tell you that the whole world of personal growth, personal development, spirituality, spiritual awareness, like, not that not everything, not all the new age is the same. Okay, and I also want to say that not all of the new age is the same. I know that people put a category there, but there's people that truly mean it when they say they want to help out. There are people that have dedicated their life to pray for others. It's just like they don't pray in your traditional prayers. They have altars, and they offer sacrifices. They do a lot of like service, but they do a lot of objects with, which when I look back, it's like, oh yeah, it's paganism. Yeah. So, but again, like, when you're doing that, you're not thinking that you're going to hurt people. If you wanted to get hired and you wanted to get a new job, and you will tell me that, I would actually like do a particular like greet on you, and I will write things, to help you. Again, I'm I'm going back, and probably it's from the way that I was raised. Like, you're supposed to be, like, getting help from mediums is something completely normal. I grew up like going to them. I grew up seeing all of that, so it's something that is normal. So those people don't want to harm you. Like there's no intention for them. Like they don't have any intentions to harm you. Now there's other people in that energy healing work that they do work for demonic entities. They do work for Satan. They do Satanism, right? So again, the spectrum is big, and I feel like it is a disservice to use the word new age and then put everybody under that umbrella, because it's not true. Um, Now, I have been able to access discernment, and it was like my testimony on how things have progressed. It's like once I was able to see, like it was like a veil was lifted. Once I felt that, I'm like, I'm gonna get baptized. And I texted, I filled the form for the church that my kids were going. Like we were not active members or anything like that. I'm like, I want to get baptized. And I put it on our family group chat. And then my kids were like, Mom, we're going to do it too. And my, wait, you were doing it and you didn't tell me? That was going to happen. They were not going to tell me. So basically, as this journey, started to just basically the veil kind of like got like super open. I'm like, I don't want these demons. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. So a lot of content that I have consumed from the time that I was aware was very much in the realm of I need to learn. First of all, am I gifted? And what is that kind of gift that I have? Because I cannot just tell you that it was a lie. Saying that, there was a podcast that I watched from another psychic that she was trained, and actually she was even more advanced and going to the Akashan records, and then she shared the story on the master and all these kind of things that she was able to do. And then I was not as advanced, but then she said how basically all of those voices shut down, and I can tell you the same. I no longer hear any of that. Praise the Lord. I no longer have the vivid visions. Praise the Lord. Saying that, I have learned basically how it is it that you can have an encounter with the Holy Spirit. So as I am progressing into learning how to take these demons out of my realm, right? Like I'm consuming a lot of content. I needed to find like how could I find the spiritual practices that I had. And at some point, which takes me to tell you a couple of things that I think it will be very, very helpful. In the beginning, I was trying to have the same experiences, but trying to consolidate and almost like trying to find the right voice in Christianity and bring all of the plethora of my practices into Christianity. And then I learned this evangelist, and he explained it in a way that was like, did a click for me. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you cannot just have the fake Louis Vuitton and then merge it into the real Louis Vuitton. It doesn't really work like that. You have to get rid completely of the fake, because what you had was fake energy. What you had was not a real thing. What you had was a fake God. The real God is omnipresent. The real God has a lot of powers that you have no idea how those powers are. The thing is that, God gave you also free will. And I really thought that God was always just watching all my steps. And I thought that because God watches all my steps, these other things are also from God. And that's not the case. I didn't have Jesus in my heart. My heart, in fact, was empty and cracked empty, because that's what you learn. When you do chakra clearance, you empty everything, because under that other philosophy, the more clear you are, the more empty you are, the more in flow you are. So look at the contrast. I was following practices that were a mix. At that point in my life, my friend, I cannot tell you if I was practicing one thing. It was a mix of every single thing. And nothing would take me into fullness. Nothing would take me into wholeness. As I gave my life to Jesus, the whole war became even worse. I had for the last like 3 months, I could not even make a video and share anything with you because all I was using my time was to be on the Bible. All I was using my time for, besides work, was to understand how can I just be forgiving for the things that I have done. There's such a thing as being born again, and I have been going through that process where I feel like after the baptism, like many issues have risen. I'm like, I need to ask forgiveness. I need to deal with this. I need to deal like make no mistake, getting baptized is actually a sign that you're sending to the unseen world that the hell lost a member. And I don't know why the hell really wanted me as a member, because as soon as I said I'm out, they were mad. It was like millions of those entities that were very, very, very bad and very mad. Okay. And one thing that I will say is that, I mean, I have been okay with losing friends that I know. So if you're watching this, just know that I think about you every single day. You know who you are. I think about you every single day. I miss our friendship a lot. I just pray. I know what you're gonna say. I hope that you can feel my heart. I I just pray. I just pray that you see that there is a real God. I just pray that you can feel his love. I know what love is like, and I know that it's it's just a thing. It's just a thing. So I've been dealing with a lot of that, a lot of like trying to find myself, trying to get to know the new me. Because when you hear what people say, you're born again. It's real. You're born again. You are born again. Like, I'm not the same person. I have been praying for discernment. I have been just going on hours and hours to be be more acquainted with the Holy Spirit, be in the understanding of like what the unseen world is. And I'm just like in awe with with the things that we just didn't know. We just didn't know. And I just feel that the lack of information, or the misinformation, whichever that is a real, it's a real, like, it can be very harmful. And because of that, there's so many people, they just want to have faith in something. And that spirituality world, it's very powerful, but it's also very dangerous. And I just want to keep sharing. And today, for some reason, it's a day when I feel like I've been meaning to share my story, because not because he has like turned around my life and then money has been here, blah 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 blah. No, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of blessings, but I stopped chasing those blessings. I realized that the real blessings that we get to have, it's the blessing that Jesus died for us in the cross. And I realized what that means. And that makes me feel that my heart is so, so full, because that's a new covenant. And I get to understand what that means. And no, I don't belong to any religion. I don't go to a church. Like, if you ask for any pastors around the churches I go, they don't know who I am. This whole thing has been our journey of healing, our journey of finding Jesus, of finding the Holy Spirit. Yes, I understand what it means to be geographically planting a church and around a community. I know that it will happen. And actually, we're open to find, a community where we can feel that we can contribute. I'm just in this cleansing mode, and I'm just like really, really, really learning a lot of things. So this is my testimony. I just want to say again, Jesus is real. Um, and I would love to answer any questions that you have. Yeah, I did it. I did it.